everyone, and welcome back. Super excited to have this amazing guest today, Kaylee McMahon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Super excited to have you here. So Kaylee has purchased over 68.2 million in real estate. I'm going to pause there. Has that number grown?
It's actually gone down because
Did you sell something?
Yeah. So it's like 64.
Let's talk about that. As general partner and principal, she sold over $3 million in residential real estate before transitioning into her full-time syndication role. Originally from Portland, Oregon, host of the InvestHER Dallas. I love InvestHER. She has started a podcast called Number One Leading Ladies, where she interviews kick-ass women who are disrupting their industry and the real story of how they got where they are today. She is developing technology, and I cannot wait to talk about that, to help make it easy and convenient for women to learn how to make passive income through apartment investing. My amazing lady, my woman, Kaylee, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You are so very welcome. So why multifamily? You were already in residential. Why did you take the step up?
It kind of fell in my lap, at the right time when it made sense. So residential sales is a job. You sell something, you got to keep selling for the rest of your freaking life to make money, right? So I got tired of that after like 2 years, and then I got into flipping a house and learned from someone who flipped a bunch. And just in my mind, I'm a visionary. So I thought, okay, well, we're going to get up to like 10 to 15 of these a month. We're going to create scale. We're going to have, an itemized list of like every detail in each room. You know what I mean? So it's just a template that you keep repeating, but I kept running into very unprofessional people who obviously are used to getting away with treating people like crap. So I just thought that was ridiculous and thought there was a better way to do it. So getting involved in the investing world in real estate, there's so many different like sub niches that you can get involved in. You can do land leases, you can do RV parks, you can do, just a billion things. And apartments is one of them that is a commercial asset that creates cash flow. And I had read, I think around that time, or maybe, I don't know, this was like 2-3 years ago, something like that. I went to Australia by myself and was on a road trip down the coast, and it was a 25-hour road trip. So I did a couple of audiobooks, and one of them was Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so it really got me to understand, okay, this idea that you have way in the back of your mind that you've tucked away and made unimportant, that, it's going to be in this 501c3 category when you're old and rich, and put it into the future, then you can start giving back. But, it was like, no, the space that you get to have access to when you're an owner. So when you're a syndicator owner, principal, whatever, so it was a single family house at a time. So it was like a room at a time, or maybe I'd have like a granny flat on the back that I could rent out to someone who needed a temporary place to live for a month while they got back on their feet. Those kinds of ideas made a lot more sense when I got involved in like a multiple of units, because then, we could have a large amount of income and then have 1 or 2 units that gave back in a way that I wanted to. So it just kind of clicked and made sense. And also that mentality of wanting to understand how I was going to get off that hamster wheel and be able to have my money work for me was building a self-running business and not being a sole proprietor that, has a job. So it just made sense. It was scalable. And then I had met like the guy that I mentioned I hung out with last night at that time. And this person was humble and just, a little flashy, but like not in the way that he talked to people or the way that he treated people or the way, you know what I mean? So I was like, if there's good, grounded people like that in this industry, I'm not saying everyone's like that, but I want to repeat what they're doing. They're making good money. They're using their celebrity for good, and they're able to, all the things. So yeah, it just made sense to me. And so I was like, well, I want to learn more about this.
There is so much I want to unpack there. I'm like, Kaylee's saying all the good things. I need to start writing notes. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. You started in flipping and you started talking about leveraging and systems. So a lot of flippers and wholesalers, because I started the same way, come to me and ask me, so how do I use the knowledge that I already have to jump into what you're doing? I would like you to answer that question. How do you use that residential knowledge, that flipping and wholesaling knowledge to jump into large multifamily?
Well, I've never wholesaled, to be honest, and I don't think it really helps very much in this industry, because any of the wholesalers I've ever talked to, that try to get into multifamily, they're clueless. They don't understand how underwriting works. And so until someone goes and figures out how to teach all the wholesalers like what conservative underwriting is, stop emailing people. But as far as residential knowledge, so understanding, I guess, from an appreciation standpoint, it doesn't really translate to the cash flow perspective of your business or how we make money. But the cool thing about apartments is you do both. You get cash flow and appreciation. But if you're aware of, you know, the current market, you can see the class of the neighborhood. You're able to see overall comps use depending on like a cap rate. And most of this comes from like Yardi or some other softwares that we use that are specifically for commercial real estate. But you're able to kind of use the same type of data essentially to figure out, okay, you know, we're projecting 5 years because of the cash flow, or we're going to cash flow day one, and then we're going to start distributing year one or year two, beginning, you know, knowing like what exit point is realistic. And it also helps to better be more grounded when it comes to, you know, seeing that crystal ball of what the exit cap rate is. When you're able to really understand like the historical numbers on the community, and then be able to drill down to a zip code, drill down to a subdivision, be able to really understand where you're buying. I think that really helps it to be very accurate on your exit projections. So, I mean, I would say that's how I think it's applicable. And then as far as, you know, being a retail agent and then going into, you know, basically selling securities, I think that a lot of the, well, there's a lot of stuff that translates. I mean, because in residential, you're selling a home, and in commercial, I'm selling a share of the company. And it's not really an emotional transaction anymore, but that wasn't the part of residential I was good at anyway. I really didn't like the, oh, like you can have your babies here, and you could, you know, I'm like, it's just, to me, it's just a freaking house. It's like 4 walls and a roof, and you move and you have your stuff stored in a back closet. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, to me, it's not, it's a house, you know?
So what you're saying is that you are perfect for multifamily because it's all numbers.
Yeah. Or just, you know, being able to take away the emotional part of it. If something doesn't make sense or something isn't adding up, it's not that I'm going to continue to be pulled into that deal because it looks pretty. Or, you know, there's been many deals like that where I'm like, man, this would be the perfect, you know, location and the perfect asset type. However, we can't buy it at the right entry price. And so nothing makes sense and nothing matters anymore. Walk away. You know, if I was more emotionally attached to a piece of property like people are in residential, I wouldn't be able to like look at 50 deals a week or whatever it is that you're say 25 deals a week and go, no. So yeah, some things translated and some things didn't to go into multifamily.
That's a great answer. I'm going to follow up that question with people who want to get into it. You mentioned that you got a mentor. So how did you find that mentor, and how are you taking that mentorship mindset to the next level? How are you giving back?
So I wouldn't really call them a mentor just because they're men. And when you're a woman in multifamily real estate, there really are not a lot of leading ladies, if you will. So there's probably like 5 or 6, you know, lead syndicators / principals, I guess, that, you know, we are aware of that do these deals. Now, however, there are multiple, you know, billionairesses and other groups of women that, you know, don't need to even have an email. You know, I mean, they probably have an email, but you know what I'm saying? Like no one knows who they are. So those people also exist. But as far as trying to find someone who's kind of a leader and who's kind of maybe on Forbes or whatever, you know, there really aren't many of us. And so I reached out to a couple of ladies who I kind of put in that, not on a pedestal, but put in that box of this could be a good teacher. But it was either they were too afraid of me because I'm very gregarious. And so I'm very, hey, this is me. This is what I want. This is what I'm good at. This is what I want to do. And I want to move forward. And unless you really know me and you understand, you know, that I stand for justice, and you understand that, you know, me being that outgoing and forward is not a sales pitch. It's just who I am. And I've actually had to learn how to pull that back a little bit because it makes people wary. Or actually what it does, and I didn't know this, it makes people make decisions where they feel like they're either under pressure or like they call it being salesy or whatever. And I'm like, no, that's just me being excited. But I can be just super unexcited. And if it still looks good to you, let me know, you know, but anyway, what was the question one more time?
It doesn't matter because we're going to go with what you're talking about because this podcast is about you. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, I mean, I'm sure men have to deal with it too, but probably not as much as we do. Not as much as we do. We have to pull back those things that might be our superpower. So let's talk about, since we're talking about mentorship, I'm going to reach behind me so everybody that's watching the video can see me reach behind me. I'm pulling up a book. You see, I have the Art of War there too. I'm pulling up a book called, oh, let's make sure it's not, everybody can read it. Women in Multifamily Real Estate, How Queens Do Apartment Investing Differently by Kaylee McMahon. So let's talk about this book. You don't hold back in the book. You do not hold back in the book, right?
I kind of do, you know? Yeah.
Let's not hold back. So I want you, if you haven't already, pick up this book. It's on Amazon. Pick it up. It's like, I think $14. It is an amazing read. I want you to dig into it. And I don't get to promote enough books that are written by women, but you don't only write about your knowledge in this book. You have interviewed so many other women that you have invited to be a part of this book. I am in here included. So thank you for that. Pick this book up, Women in Multifamily Real Estate. You know, if you're listening to this podcast, you want multifamily, this is the book to get. Okay. So let's talk about this book. Why did you write this book and why the title?
Especially if you're a woman, because I was talking to someone about this earlier, and it's just that the fact is, like with the mentor thing, it does relate. You're right. Because when you're looking at a mentor, for example, a man, that's how I got started. I would have never gotten started if it wasn't for Will, if it wasn't for Alex, if it wasn't for Brandon, if it wasn't for a couple of dudes, you know, and just because that's who's available, you know what I mean? And not every person wants to mentor. And so if there's only 5, you know, baller females that are in this industry and they're, you know, busy because they're doing deals or whatever, they might not have time to, or they haven't structured a program where they could say, okay, we'll talk every Monday for 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Like they just haven't done that yet. So when you're looking at like a male and a female perspective, it's so different. And I think that the men that financially vouched for me, that signed on loans for me, that introduced me to all of their team, that really helped me get into the industry, those are people that I call sponsors. And then I think a mentor is a woman. And I haven't found one who is willing to work with me. And I'm not trying to be out there, you know, going, hey, I need a mentor. I'm not Googling for mentors. I'm not searching to pay someone. I'm not desperate to find a mentor. A mentor is like somebody that you meet that has way more experience than you, doing something you want to do at their level. So they're active, or they were active very recently. And there's somebody that sees a little bit of themselves in you. And so they go, oh, wow, I could really see me being able to see this person be uber successful because they're just like me. And so there's usually a sort of a bond, and there's usually a sort of a give and take relationship. And so whether it's, you know, they have the same mission as I do, whether it is, you know, with what my main sponsor, I would say, our thing that I didn't realize that we truly had in common until like waters got really rough. We both stand for justice at the end of the day. So that was something that strengthened our bond even more. And I have him and his wife's picture on my vision board, and I'm trying to figure out ways to give back to them more, just because of, you know, what he did for me. But I think that, you know, through a female lens is very necessary when it comes to getting into this journey, because for me, I got what I got, and it was enough, and it was enough to get the information. It was enough, but there were a lot of missing pieces. So for example, in this book, Brooke Jackson, for example, she is a lender. She is also a broker, and she's got a bunch of kids. And so when I was interviewing her, she's down in her basement talking through, and there's kids running around the background. And we talk through, like, how do you balance, you know, having to do loans and having to broker properties, and you've got like little girls running around the house, and how do you negotiate with your spouse time, or do you live with your parents, or how do you make it work? Because there are people out there doing it for sure. But these are things that men are never going to think of, because women, I would say from my experience, not always, but for the most part, because they have their children, they feel responsible for them. And so they want to make sure that they are taken care of. And so women a lot of the time shoulder that responsibility, whether, you know, it should be equally shared or whatever. We're just nurturing people. So I was comfortable asking her, you know, how do you balance all this stuff? So it just is really like through a different lens, the multifamily industry. And then there's different people in there that do different things. So whether it's legal, whether it's lending, whether it's, you know, people that are raising money, whether it's, you know, it's all the different perspectives, but through a female lens. And I just think that's really important, because that's really not out there.
No, that is super important. Especially during the time of COVID, I started asking the same questions to moms who were in multifamily. And there's actually a good amount of us, which is crazy. Because
Mhm.
as soon as I started putting that energy out there, I started just seeing us everywhere. But the thing is, like you said, if you don't put that energy out, if you don't put that female perspective out, a lot of times the female perspective will not show up because you're not looking for it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I would ask my moms the same thing, like, how do you do it? That was my one question, was how do you do it? So I'm going to ask you, just as a woman, how do you do it? How do you step into it? How do you think you're going to find? Because I've had that conversation with a lot of women in this industry. We're looking for that woman who knows that much more than us, who has been in this industry. So ladies, ma'am, if you are listening to this and you think you are the one for both Kaylee and I, please reach out to either of us because we're looking for you, putting that energy out for you. So how do we step forward and become, I don't necessarily think the word is louder, but more known?
Mhm. You know, part of it is pretty simple. It's kind of stuff we're already doing, you know. So really, at the end of the day, all we have is each other. You know, that's how we're going to move forward. I think is being able to link arms, being able to promote each other. So that's why I focus on things like this, or like if you'll notice every Monday on my LinkedIn and all my social media and stuff, we do a Marketing Monday, and the Marketing Monday is usually promoting a podcast. And my podcast only interviews women. It's promoting some kind of like we've got our Women Who Invest Wednesday that's once a month, or like that's coming up, but it's usually focused around other women and their expertise and their knowledge. And so really that was something that I learned from a couple of Asian friends. They're like, you want to know what really works in business, Kaylee? Promoting other people, and then also figuring out how to positively affect someone else's life. Like, how do I give to them first? And there was a book called The Go Giver that talks exactly about that, where you can't receive if you don't give, and you can't give if you can't receive. So it's just like a beating heart. It's got to exhale, or your lungs have to inhale and exhale to be alive and be healthy. So really, that was something that was brought up to me not too long ago, and so this is now going even deeper than just multifamily. And so I'm realizing that a lot of the really big heartaches that I've been through recently, I think I'm kind of grateful for them, to tell you the truth, because I mean, I didn't lose my legs. I can still go on a hike. I didn't lose all of my assets. I didn't lose everything. I lost quite a bit, but it was really to go through like kind of the worst situation that you can get through investing with other people. And dealing with COVID and dealing with, whatever, just I had to go through that, and then being taken advantage of by an attorney as well that got in there too. And so every which way I'm being taken advantage of because I was too open, too nice, too kind. And there are vultures out there that are looking for things like that. And it's unfair that you would have to change your personality. You'd have to be a recluse. You'd have to change the way that you enjoy life, just because of these nasty people that are out there. And it was actually all of this stuff that I went through that pushed me into getting access to certain resources that give me security, if you will. So instead of having to go the legal route now, I'm able to get certain resources to where if there are people that are threatening me, stealing from me, taking from me, extorting me. I mean, I've been through all of it in the last not too long. That behavior is not acceptable. And I don't ever have to be afraid, because when people behave like that, what's funny is they've gotten away with it before. That's why they're doing it. And it's criminal behavior. And it's something that if I was unable to take the quick route really quickly right here, where about a month ago I go, my mind is so soft. I need to harden up a little bit. And so how am I going to do that? Because this stuff's going to never end. Like, people are always going to try to take it from you. They're always going to try to, put that target on your back. They're always mad because they can't do it in a honest way, so it just is what it is. But how do I mentally deal with it, make it kind of the norm, and then have resources to combat that so that it doesn't, affect my life? I can move on. And so I kind of have those I have those resources now, to where, I mean, if anyone tries to basically cause any injustice in my life, like, I can squash it, and I don't go the traditional legal route. And so point is with a friend that I go on long walks with often, I've decided to partner with them and their access to what they have. I guess I can't use details, but to basically be the face of a security company, an IT security company, because it's amazing. Like how often, you know, there's an entire legal firm in Dallas that takes up 2 floors of a building where all they focus on is angry ex-boyfriends or people trying to extort women because we are in a romantic relationship with a man and he uses information, photos, whatever it is against us, which is completely, it's extortion, it's illegal, you know, but it happens every day, all the time. It happens to people who have a lot of wealth. And so what that would do, I was going to say, if I didn't go figure out, like my journey right now is trying to make my mind hard. So reading Can't Hurt Me, and that is my new thing. Like literally, you can't hurt me no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how much you threaten, you can't hurt me. If I didn't go down that journey, I would have quit. And I almost got to that point where I'm going, maybe the signs of, you know, attack from here and attack from there and attack from there are to teach me to stop being in this industry or to walk away or, you know, to back off basically and be pushed in a corner. And then I realized, no, because I have a mission. I enjoy what I do. I love where I'm going, and I'm not going to allow anything to stop that. So I think a lot of women probably get into a point in their career where they're squeezed in a corner by how things corrupt or how things normally operate, which just isn't cool. So any point is I want to bring that as an asset for women that are in my ecosystem to say, look, you don't have to be afraid if there's someone coming after you, if there's someone telling you can't do certain things. I mean, constantly I see newbies in residential being told that they can't write certain contracts, they can't do certain things. BS. Like so they're just lying to people who are inexperienced. And point is just having a way to like fact check and have resources to where people won't mess with you. Like then you can just pursue your career the way that you want to, and that's what I want. And anyway, point is that's where I want to go now, and that's kind of this. Not that I want to be a mentor per se, but I want to be a resource, you know, for women. So I guess if that's mentorship, cool.
I call that mentorship. I think, and I've had this conversation many times that, you know, people, especially women, are afraid to take on that teacher role, even though we're mostly the teachers, like, no, we're known as teachers, but we don't take that mentorship role. We don't accept that. I don't know if we don't want to accept the responsibility, or we don't want to accept I don't know what it is, but we need to be able to teach each other. We have so much to learn and so much to teach from each other, woman to woman, lady to lady, female to female, whatever you want to call it. We have things to teach each other. And I love the fact that you are not afraid. I'm sure you have fears, but you're learning how to harden your mind against whatever it is you went through. I don't want to push that button if you don't want it to be pushed, but I do want to ask you the question, how did you become unafraid? Because that is something that affects so many women, that either we are, like you said, pushed into a corner and we don't think that we can get out of that corner, whether it's the type of real estate we do, or whether we went through something that we can't get over because our minds aren't hardened against it. How did you become unafraid?
I guess that's exactly it. It's kind of conditioning your mind, you know, to kind of deal with the abuse, to tell you the truth. And there's so many different ways, but really, I think the first time, ask that question one more time. I had a good example.
How did you become unafraid? How did you take yourself out of that corner? How did you harden your mind? How did you continue to move on from whatever it is that you had to go through?
So to become unafraid, the first thing I had to do, because I mean, it causes you so much stress and duress, you know, gaining weight, that happened to me, not sleeping. I mean, on and on and on. It affects your personal life, you know, people that you live with, everything. And so the first thing I did was to really think about, well, okay, let's talk about hardening my mind first. So hardening my mind really came from kind of like, you know, when you strengthen a muscle, you repeat and repeat the same exercise, or you repeat, you make it stronger, right? And so being in acknowledgement that those things happen and being okay with it, I guess being in acceptance is like the first part of it, because, you know, being in denial doesn't, I mean, it doesn't help. Let's just say that. So there's so many books recently that I read at the same time. It was kind of funny. They all had the same message. And it was basically like, the first way to be happy in life is to just be in acceptance. Okay, I got cancer. What am I going to do about it? You know, so I actually got a tattoo on my wrist that says can't change it. So that was something that, like, whenever something upsets me or something is threatening or something, whatever, I go think to myself, can I change this? No. Okay, well, find something else to focus my energy on. So that's kind of partially where this book came from, where my app came from, et cetera, was going with COVID and with all these other things I was dealing with. Okay, what can I control? Let's focus on that. So at the time it was creating versus trying to deal with a situation that, it was just coming at me. It wasn't something I can't control other people's behavior, so I did what I could to protect myself, legally, and then basically tried to move on with doing more deals and creating and figuring out like who my small circle should be. And instead of searching for more, kind of keeping it small, so that was how I was working on hardening my mind. But then in addition to that, physical fitness is another way that I've been able to focus on a way to harden my mind. And I'm not the best at it, don't get me wrong, but it came from David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, and repeating that to myself every day, that I won't allow someone to hurt me. But hardening my mind with physical fitness helped. So for example, like, if you normally would work out once a day, I've been trying to do it twice a day. If normally I would go for a class for 45 minutes and I took a break and stopped 2 minutes early, then I'd go for another half hour. If I, am in a class, for example, and they're going, "Are you tired?" I'm like, "No," and it's all in your freaking head, and so one thing he does for a trick, and this has to do with physical exercise, but that's kind of in a moment where your heart rate is high. And you have to control your heart rate to be able to control how quickly your mind is moving, I suppose, or it's vice versa. Your mind controls it. But when you're able to be in kind of a panic stage where your heart rate is high and being able to control yourself and make the decision, like, I'm going to run longer, or I'm going to breathe slower, or I'm going to, whatever it is that you're doing, or I'm going to not stop and I'm going to make it up the entire next hill without a break, or whatever. So I've just been challenging myself. And in those moments where things seem really scary, honestly, what he does, and I kind of have started to do more of it, it's going to take time. It's going to take probably a month of consistently doing it. I think of Christmas, or I think of Thanksgiving, or I think of like Easter. Oh, there's a like chocolate bunny at the top of the hill, or, I'm not going to stop until I get where the bunny is, or just thinking of something positive and happy, while that scary stuff is happening. Something else to focus on, and then you can control, that's just in working out physically. But the physical stuff has made me a little bit more tough when it comes to dealing with just mental crap. And then also because I'm expending energy, it helps to kind of keep me calm and collected, because it's like, well, I only have so much energy left for the day, so I got to delegate it right, and then the very first part of your question, would you ask it one more time? Because I had one example and then I forgot again.
It was, how are you not afraid? How did you back yourself out of that corner? Basically, how did you take responsibility for your life? I love the fact that you have that tattoo that says, "I can't change it," because that I'm gonna start writing that on my wrist every single morning, because there's
Remind myself, can I change it? Nope, move on,
There you go. Like, I find myself dwelling, and I'm sure a lot of my listeners do too, on certain things. Like, there's just certain things I'll just like dwell on, and I need to write that on my wrist. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna put the little line that says Kaylee McMahon.
It's very much stoicism. That's all. It's just like, you can't control other people's opinions of you, their perceptions, their actions, their words. So if that's what's stressing you out, that's all in your head. Like I said, you didn't lose a leg, so and it does suck. It does. But when you're in that, you got to find a way to deal with it and find a way to, you're not gonna be able to completely move on, but like I said, just kind of deal with it. So, yeah. And then unafraid, God, I had a good answer and I keep forgetting. How was I unafraid?
You know what? Let's talk about.
Now I remember exactly what it was. So the first time that I was afraid, it was when I got backed into a corner and literally everything's against me. My attorney can't give me an answer. The other attorney can't give me an answer. People that I normally go to for answers that have been in the business for a long time, they don't have answers. Obviously, I don't have any answers. Then I was like panicked for like a week, and then I went back to the thing that like, women suck at this stuff and I suck at this stuff. Ask for freaking help. Like, that's exactly the moment where I grew and I felt better and I felt confident and I felt unafraid. I could sleep again. Because what I did was I said, okay, kind of like the mentor thing. again, I did reach out to that core group of people, but sometimes when they don't know, you got to go further. You know what I mean? You got to keep reaching out. And that's something that normally I'm really good at, but I was just so scared and panicked. I couldn't think, you know? So literally going, okay, so I'm in multifamily and I'm in multifamily in Dallas and I'm dealing with the problem that originated from this attorney. Okay, who has probably done a deal with that attorney who's in Dallas, who's in multifamily, you know? And so then I started asking around. And so it's a somewhat small of a community. And so a couple people were able to go, this guy, this girl, this guy. So then I would set up like a lunch meeting or a coffee meeting with them and just tell them like what I'm going through. And on a very not, that's something else, women, we overshare. So I had to go in there kind of with a couple bullet points of like, here's how it started. Here's what's going on. Here's where we're stuck and where we're at. And then how do I fix it? Or whatever, what have you been through similar that we can talk about, and let them talk, you know? But really it was reaching out and asking for help and asking them how they got out of the same situation. And one, you're not alone anymore. You don't feel like you're on an island. And number two, it ends up building some rapport with these people that maybe you weren't that close with before. So future things are going to happen. And so you're going to be able to reach out to them. And since then, a few of them, we've decided that we possibly want to do deals together, because I came to them. I was very transparent, very honest. And I just kind of put my walls down and I said, help, you know? So a lot of good things come from asking for help. And that's why my favorite book is, or one of them is Women Don't Ask, and then Ask for It by Barbara Babcock or Sarah Lashever and Barbara Babcock. Yeah. So because, you know, it's like, why do we not ask? You understand the psychology behind it, all the generational crap we've been subconsciously fed, and then how to ask for it.
That is a book I'm definitely gonna subscribe to and read, because I haven't read it yet. So I'm going to read it as soon as we get off, probably tomorrow. I'll buy it.
Science. That's the good part, Pili, is it's all science. So Linda Babcock, she is a professor at Carnegie Mellon. So it's years and years of research that she's done that gave you the data to understand like the types of gendered toys that we play with, the types of just the whole thing. So it's all numbers and data. It's not just like, here's what we think. So
because it's so true. I mean, how many times does something come up and you're just like, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm just going to do it myself. If I want it done, I'm just going to do it myself.
All day. And that's why men are good at asking for help, because they're lazy as shit. They're like, I don't want to figure this out. I'm going to ask Joe Bob, you know? And we're like, no. We know it all. We know it all. We got the solution.
Leverage, Pili, leverage. So you are awesome. I want to talk about, before I let you go, I want you to plug your app. You just came up with an app. You just came out with an app. Let us know about it and let us know where we can get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just on the iTunes store, Apple App Store, because we're on the iTunes store too, you know. But anyway, so on the Apple App Store, SheVest. That's it. It's one word. Vest is VEST. V is in very, and it's in beta phase. So go in there and poke around. The first 1,000 users, it's free. There's just some education that I put together on all the different commercial assets out there that cash flow, pros and cons of each. And it's women that are being interviewed talking about their experience doing it for at least 2+ years. So you're able to kind of see from that lens again. It's usually not talked about, you know, from that lens, but again, just a good perspective. And then also I have a fund as well. And the fund is focused on women, and we're working right now on making it a crowdfunding, or the first offering will be a crowdfunding offering. So we'll be able to have a much lower minimum than we're used to get more women to invest in that fund. And then you can find all this stuff on my website, theapartmentqueen.com. And if you're wondering how to get on the list for that, there's buttons everywhere. I mean, it says, you know, get qualified for the next investment and fund waitlist, you know, all over the place.
I'm going to repeat that again. You can find all this on theapartmentqueen.com. You can find the app, you can find the book, you can find Kaylee, and you can get in touch with her if you need more information on anything she does, anything she's offering, and any information that she might have. Kaylee, thank you so very much for being on my show today. You've dropped so much value. And if you could tell one more thing to my audience, one action step, what would it be?
I mean, honestly, get support, whatever that means. You know, if there's something that that's stopping you from getting involved in, whether it's multifamily, single, whatever it is, whatever you want to do, whether it's tech, whatever, you know, find some people who are already doing it and reach out to them and ask for help. I mean, really come at it from an angle of Can you just share with me your expertise? Don't ever ask to pick someone's brain. It's not going to work. Don't do that. Or really, what can I give you? So I come to other people and say, I'd like to promote you on my podcast. I'd like to put you in my book. I'd like to do something for you. And then that bond will just happen. But yeah, you got to reach out and you got to pick people that are actually doing what you want to do in the future.
That is amazing, Kaylee. Thank you so much. And to my listeners, I am so grateful to you for listening today. If you enjoyed what you heard, please rate, review, subscribe. You are awesome. So much aloha to you, so much love, and so much peace. And Kaylee, again, thank you.